Mark, I'm going to get back to the coaching side of things. There's the X's and O's are important. Fitness is important, but there's an area that relates to sports science, and that is peak performance. The art of being able to get your team to be at their best, be alert, be sharp, be on their toes, to execute with everything that you've taught them. And I've found over the years that um, the first priority to me is getting everybody to believe in themselves and to do the right things and to trust and respect one another as a team. That psychologically is going to impact how you communicate and how you sort of pull the rope in the same direction. And those things are vital. I'm wondering to what degree the application of sports psychology is formalized at your level or worked on. Are you the one that tries to manage the emotional ebb of your team in terms of staying on an even keel and not getting too high and not getting too low and helping the athletes deal with the rigors of being a student athlete and trying to balance their lives? So, any work comment on that, Mark?
Yeah, well, at the university level, funding is at a minimal, so yes, I do it all. And probably not as well as you should at times. So, I think the one thing I've really tried to entrust is our leadership group. So we have leadership meetings every Monday, where our 4 captains will be there, and we'll also bring in a couple of their veteran guys, or we'll bring in a young player. And those are the moments in time where that we start every meeting with an open forum. It's their table, it's their time to talk. So they bring anything they want in regards to the team, the game, their schedules, anything they want to bring forward. That's their moment to bring it forward. I think the relationships we build with our older players, our veterans, our leaders is really important. And we do a lot of training there in helping them understand. And Kevin King, who was our captain, he said it best. This was 7-8 years ago. He found it really hard to be a leader at our level, and I asked him why. He goes, "Because I'm always on the fence." I said, "What do you mean?" "I'm trying to make you happy. I'm trying to make the players happy. I'm trying to make everybody happy." He goes, "I don't make anybody happy." And so we've really learned, I think, that the leaders have to be an extension of the coaching staff. They can have their own vision as far as what they want to bring to us, but we really help our leaders understand when they leave the room, our meetings, they have to be an extension of us. So then they have a responsibility to go back to the team, share how the leadership meeting went, what we talked about. But they'll also bring up. I'll talk to talk to them about the mood of the guys, the energy levels, where we're at. Yeah, and I guess to your point, Wally, to make sure guys are ready for games and ready and enjoy their time. The one thing I've learned that helps them enjoy anything is if they're getting better, like they have at our level, and I think kids, once they enter the AA, AAA level, so U15, U18, they go into junior, they want to get better, and they want coaches that help them improve. And to me, that gives them the motivation, the excitement to come to the rink when they know there's people there that care about them to make them better. When they see coaches that are helping them, engaging them, improving them, I think that's number one. And then I read an article by Mike, or a quote by Mike Babcock. This was, oh God, I can't remember. He was in Detroit then. And he was talking about confidence. I think it was in relation to Dan Cleary. I think it was Dan Cleary. I may be mistaken, but and it was just in regards to the player expressing, and losing confidence. You're not helping me get my confidence back. And Mike said, "Look, I can't help you get your confidence back." And it was in relation to saying, where does your confidence come from? And we work a lot with our guys on that, is their preparation. So they're the stuff in the summer, obviously we've talked about, but their time management, their study skills, their training during the winter, finding time to rest, social time, but their preparation leading into a practice, but also leading more importantly into games for them is what gonna give you the confidence. And so when you're confident in who you are as a player, you're confident in your team because you know your teammates have put in the work, and you got coaches that are trying to make you better. For me, I think players then can thrive for the most part. Obviously, in today's world, there's lots of personal things going on in the world, and we're there to listen as well. But you know, I would love to have a full-time sports psych coach on our team, but we don't. But I rely on our coaches a lot. Like we got Brad Warenka, who works with our D. You know, he played NCAA, played in the NHL. Rashawn Robertson. But then our skills coaches as well. I listen to them. Our strength coaches. So even Bold Athlete, who trains our guys, they ask our players every Monday when they come in. It's a 3 or 4 question thing. Is, are you happy? So they, you know, your level of happiness, 1 out of 10. You know, your level of energy, your level of excitement. So that helps the players kind of think, where am I at? Like it helps Bold understand where they're at, but it helps our players kind of think, where am I at today? Like, am I happy? Am I not happy? So we're trying to build in as many things as we can that help them mentally and emotionally. And, you know, then I go back to October, and October was a turning point for our team, obviously, but you know, we weren't great day to day, like Friday, Saturday. Friday we were no good. Saturday we were great, and we started really engaging our guys emotionally and saying, look, it just, because I think players get caught. Like I look at my son who's in Moose Jaw, and all these kids play junior. They go there, they probably don't have the right mentorship there to learn what's required to be good in the game. So, for example, a kid will go and have a 2-hour nap because the 19-year-old's having a 2-hour nap, and you know, or I'll just, you know, this is how I warm up. This is what I do in the morning because this guy does it. So we really talk to our guys as far as not journaling, but journaling in their mind of doing whatever they needed to do from the time we finish Friday to the time we engage and puck drop on Saturday, being emotionally connected. So it's your why. Like, why are you going to play? Like, why am I going to compete? Why am I going to play hard? Why am I doing this for my teammates? So it became kind of, I wouldn't say a running joke, but a running theme on our team. It was an enjoyable theme. And Josh Mazer, one of our players, that, you know, I'd look at him, I say, Josh, what do we got to do? And we'd have a Saturday meeting or whatever. You know, what do we got to do now? He'd be like, whatever I want to do and whatever I got to do. I'm like, that's exactly what you got to do. So players learning their own kind of strategies, but they also know they can come talk to us and learn as well. But you know, sports psych is interesting for me. I think there's a place for it, for sure. But I think that confidence and that desire to get better and have coachings to make you better is probably a vital piece for me anyways.
Mark, Tim, go ahead.
Sorry, I had my mic off there. Just want to interject because I like the idea of the check-ins weekly and everything. I forget where I heard it or read it, but coach somewhere, might have been a female basketball coach, but she had going into the locker room. I think she did it every day. There was like a little check-in board, mental, physical, and it was thumbs up, thumbs down. That's simple. So, and you maybe don't do it every day, but maybe on a Monday morning, how are you feeling? A Thursday morning going into the weekend, how are you feeling? Just, are you thumbs up? Are you thumbs down? And there's no numbers or anything associated with it. Just check a box. And then even the team can say, hey, we got 10 guys in here that are thumbs down today. I can maybe help some of those guys. If I'm feeling good, I can reach out. I'm aware of it. You can be aware of it as coaches as well. To obviously do an in the moment check in, like, hey guys, we got 10 guys that are thumbs down today. You know, what's going on? And maybe you take your foot off the gas a little bit, whatever the case. But I really like that idea. And we did it a bit with the Danish women's team when I was working with them, and really a pretty useful little quick, you know, no real effort sort of check in with the team was really, really helpful.
Tim, I always had the concern with, and Mark, you can comment on this. you have a daughter playing, hockey. You can do that stuff with girls. Can you do it with guys? Like thumbs up, thumbs down, or is it more spontaneous and there's a different word for it? It's less deliberate, less contrived. On the female side, I think they eat that stuff up. They want to know why. Girls want to know why of everything. Guys, back in your day, Mark, playing, just tell me what to do. I'll go through the wall.
Yeah.
But today's generation of male and female athletes want to know they want logic. They want reason behind what they're doing. And I think the art of coaching is how you manage emotions by the way you communicate, the way you listen to help you understand each other better. And I just wanted to share that the difference between, say, Carla coaching the female team and how she might handle what you're doing with your team. Can you comment on the difference that you might perceive, Mark?
Well, it's interesting. Last summer, so I've watched my daughter play for a long time. I've not coached her a lot, a little bit in Timbits, novice. I guess that's U9 or whatever now. But now last summer, I did a 2-week camp with the girls that were going into U15. And I've worked lots with the younger boys too, running spring teams or development sessions for the last 15, 20 years. So I did notice a difference in the girls for sure. Because it was interesting with the girls. We went on at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 10:15, but at 8 a.m. we do a video session and a meeting. Say, hey, and we didn't do it Monday, but we had a meeting to kind of get the week set. But then we'd have somebody video practice, and then I would take 6 or 7 clips out of there, and then I would take 6 or 7 clips either out of the women's national team or the NHL in what we were working on, what we were trying to improve on. I think they have lots of questions. They were shy at first, but then they started asking a lot of questions, which was good. But I think the boys, the male side now is way more inquisitive than they were 15, 20 years ago. I think with the vast amount of information they can get on YouTube or podcasts or coaching sites or just educating themselves. And I think just the generation today now, even how school goes, they're allowed to ask lots of questions rather than saying, hey, do it. Now they say, hey, what do you think? And that's part of the leadership meetings. That's part of, even when we talk about penalty kill with our guys, I'll be like, this is what we think. What do you guys think? Like, you're on the ice. Like, we try to engage them as much as we can. What are you seeing? What do you feel? You want a face-off play? What do you guys want to do on this switch? We feel comfortable in that. Okay, well, let's go. The girls' side, I find, as much as they want to know why, I think they're almost too linear too. Like, there's not a lot of creativity in the girls' side. So I'd like to see more of that on the girls' side. But to answer your question, Wally, I think the boys and the males are a very inquisitive group now, and they want to be included in decision making. They, especially at our level, they want to be informed, they want to be educated, but they want to have their questions answered at the same time.
If I could just interject there, Mark, I'd totally back that up. Like, Wally, I think that gap has really closed over the last, 10, 15 years. These kids have grown up with this. Their information comes bang, bang, bang. And even with my guys, so the guys that Mark has now, move on, it's the same. Like, I've got 33 years, and we post everything. Like, we've got a 16-point game objectives that we post after every game, and it's the minutia of the game, all the little things. You talk about the little things. I like the idea of the guys being able to see it. They can actually quantify. Were we over 50% on face-offs? Did we outshoot our? Did we have 30 shots or more? Did we keep our opposition at less than 25 shots, et cetera, et cetera? And then the stat sheets, and we actually have a tracking system, and so they want to see how far they actually traveled during the game, and we do it during practice, and all this information, and it's overload. And we have a little bit of analytics. It's kind of a new thing that's been brought into the league that the whole league has access to, but it's not overwhelming. It's overwhelming maybe to us, because we're older, whether it's different generations of hockey, but these guys, they soak it up. Like the more info you can give them, the happier, the more content they are. I don't like the word happy. I like content. Can you be fulfilled in what you're doing? Can you be content in your role and everything else? And the information that these guys get these days, I think it's absolutely necessary, because if they feel like they're in the dark, they're lost. They need that information. They need that feedback.
You're muted, Wally.
Wally, you're on mute, bud.
Tim and I have mentored over the years in minor hockey, but I've come to the realization now, and I'm suggesting to both of you a new method of coaching. We want coaches, obviously, to go from yelling to telling and directing to asking. The Socrates method of training and teaching and learning engages the student or the athlete. So like Belfry in his book wrote, the student is the teacher. So the game routine of between period communication, normally, and I asked Don Phelps what he did yesterday, because what I teach at high performance coaches to do, I mandate them to experiment with this, and I'm suggesting both of you experiment with this. Between periods, ask your staff, what did we do well? And listen. Ask your staff, what do we need to do better? And listen. And if you can add anything to them, fine. But then you go in the room, you ask the same questions from your players. And you'll hear or not hear answers. You'll learn about what they know and understand, and they might shock you in their own observations and feedback. So there's that new way of communication. And I know that with the female coaches I've mentored over the past 10 years, Jordan Fenton being one of them, Mark, their routine between periods is that questioning process with the staff, then to the kids. And I've done it at HP games. I've mandated that the coach being evaluated do this as an experiment. And when the game's over, it's the same thing. But we all go in and tell them what we want, what we think they need to hear, but we need to hear what they think, and then do a closure. So I just think that's not necessarily, it might be futuristic, but coaches are coaching in the future. What you say, what you do, how you do it is going to affect the player right now. So I just want to add that.
I think that has merit, Wally.
Okay.
Only speaking for me is it's tough to let go. You know, it's the responsibility of head coaches, what's on your shoulders. But I think you're right. You know, just a little aside is even when we're doing video, we're doing post-game, post-action review the next morning. And if I'll just put out, what do you guys think? And it's silence, because I don't do it very often. I think that if I got into the habit of that, and you can't, you know, the inmates can't be running the asylum, but to be able to let go a little bit and say, does this make sense? And every once in a while say, does this make sense to you guys? And it's silence, because I don't do it often enough. And I'll say, I'm not kidding. We're not moving on until I hear from you guys. And then somebody will be brave enough to pop up, and then it starts a conversation, and other guys will jump in. And I enjoy that more, because I stand up there and it's part of, I don't want to call it control freak. I think all of us head coaches, like it's on us, right? It's part of what we work in. Okay. So we're kind of almost forced to work within this paradigm. But then on top of that, you need to be authentic, and you need to be able to think forward. And one of the things on our gym, one of our sayings is evolve or die. And sometimes I turn that back at me, because I'm like, geez, you're getting a little stodgy. You're getting a little bit stuck in what you do. Well, doesn't mean that it's right. Sometimes you have to evolve, or else you're going to get stuck in the mud.
Before I go to Tim, I want to relate to Dominic Pittis' story, American League coaching. responsible for the power play. They have the power play people only in the room, and he's reviewing the video, and he showed me this 30-minute video session that he was going to spend. And I said, what are you doing? It's too long. They're going to shut you out so fast. So he experimented near the end of the season where the units of 5 sat together and broke down the power play, talked about what they were doing, what they could have done, what they needed to do. Coaches didn't say anything. And then each group got to speak to the entire team about what they had perceived and gleaned from it. The coaches learned more from that, and the players were more engaged in that kind of experiment. So I really think we got to evolve. The kids are evolving. We're not. They're the cell phone, they're the computer, the artificial intelligence. It's moving so quickly that modern coaches at a very young age have to, and some of them are getting very good at it. Those that aren't going to coach that long. So just wanted to share. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Wally. I just wanted to interject. I mean, for Mark and Mike mainly, just about the letting go thing and the questioning and everything. I went to an ASU Stanford basketball game when I was down in Phoenix in December, and I was sitting behind the Stanford bench, and I didn't know the players, the coaches. I was a basketball guy in high school, but it really struck me during a timeout, the activity that went on. Basically, all the bench people got a bunch of chairs out there so the players could sit down, and the coaches would huddle together. It all in the course of about a 2-minute timeout. And it really struck me. I was watching the Stanford coach. Players would go into their little huddle. The Stanford coaches would migrate over here a little bit, and the head coach just listened. He had like 3 or 4 assistants, and they each had about 15 seconds to say, hey, this is what I thought, this is what I thought, this is what and he just listened. And then he'd go into the huddle with the team, and right away he'd get some feedback from the guys, and he'd listen again. He's just like, hey, what do you think? And he, 1 or 2 guys, and then he would have his own sort of 20-second feedback to them. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And funny thing is how that Stanford head coach has a direct connection with Dan Van Horn at U of C, but that's another part of the story. But then I watched the other ASU coach, who was a young guy, really good player in his day, Bobby Hurley, but he's a young coach. I think he's been head coach there just a couple of years. Diametrically opposite. It right away, doesn't even talk to his assistants, right away into the huddle with the players, and you can see him telling them this, that, the other thing. And they were a way more talented team, ASU. But it was so dramatic, like black and white coaching styles. I actually emailed the Stanford coach after the game, and to his credit, he emailed me right back. But just to say how impressed I was at how he used it as his assistants, listened to his assistants, and got feedback from his players. And it was just such a black and white thing. Clearly an older, more experienced, really more knowledgeable coach versus a young, enthusiastic, I know everything kind of approach. You do evolve as a coach, but it was quite an experience from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, Tim, when I get out of that, it's the same as this group. Mark, we wanted you to come on, and normally when a person comes on, it's sort of like you do all the talking. And you've done a lot of it, and that's what the intention is, but it leads to engaging feedback from Mike, listening to Hal. So the amount of information that we've got from one another, we've learned from one another. And that's why the term No Dead Sharks is the title of our group, which means we're keep moving forward, keep evolving, keep swimming. Now, we haven't engaged one person on here who I think is the best listener of anyone. So, Rick, I'm just going to say, buddy, what do you think of what we're BSing about? Go ahead. Introduce yourself too, Rick. But you're the best. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'd go too far with that last comment, Wally, but Mark, how you doing?
Great, thanks. Yeah, no,
I
thanks
don't
for
know if you
having me
remember
today.
me or not, but we
Yeah.
crossed paths a few times.
We did, yeah.
Mike, I'm a Strathmore guy, so I'm well familiar with your youth. As soon as you came
Innocent
on,
Strathmore, that goes way back. Yeah.
Yeah, it does
Innocent
go back.
Strathmore.
But to Wally's point, now I'm just a fly on the wall here this morning, just absorbing information. Congratulations to Mark on your accomplishments for sure. But yeah, I don't have a lot to offer right now. I'm just, like I say, I'm just absorbing.
It was interesting. One of my, wouldn't be my first, whatever, a number of coaching clinics in. I was at the University of Calgary, and it was, I think, it might have been my advanced one, maybe, I can't remember. And Claire Drake, he came and presented the penalty kill. And, I think we all know who Claire is and what he's done for the game in Alberta and Canada and the world. But he presented the penalty kill, but then he sat there for the entire day and took more notes than anybody in the actual course. And he just kept scribbling. And I went up to Claire. I'm like, Claire, like, you never stop. He's like, I want to learn all the time. And he wasn't coaching then. He was done coaching. And I think he was mentoring U of A a little bit. And it was around the game with the Oilers, but not really involved. And, but it just struck me. I was a young guy and just, we're all capable of learning over and over again. And as long as you're open to it. And, it was pretty unique having that opportunity to be around Claire. But even George, we talk about experience. George said to me when I was a young coach, because I was trying to get a junior job and this job and that job, and I don't know, I was 27-ish, maybe 28. He goes, Mark, when you don't have experience, you don't think it's important. Once you have it, you're going to realize how important it is. And we talk about, Mike said about letting go. I would have never let go 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I wouldn't have. Like, you just don't. But now you're around better coaches, you have better assistants, you learn to listen to your players differently. I remember how much it took out of me when I coached Drayton Valley. I was exhausted, and I'm still exhausted after a game, but not like I was then. Like, because you did everything. You were you're energized. You were the Energizer Bunny, the leader, the cheerleader, the coach, the director, the everything. And you just learn to let go of it as you get older, that experience and using the wisdom and experience around you will make you a better coach. So just little tidbits there.
Mark, my Claire Drake story is the same. Very early Hockey Canada presentations at the Center of Excellence. They brought in all the major junior coaches, and somebody presented, and Claire, he was taking notes. And Claire was scheduled to do a talk. And basically, he was taking notes, but he was preparing his presentation on D-Zone cover. And the presentation to this day is the best one I've ever been to. And it affected my coaching to what I valued and how it was done, to the point of it now being harmful, overdoing the focus on defense. But Claire's Claire up here, and I think, Hal, you might know Claire. I don't know who to equivocate him with. He's sort of the John Wooden of coaching here in terms of the number of successes, but he's the only coach that has won as a head coach national championships in ice hockey in the same season as football. So the idea of coaching and technical knowledge, yeah, it matters. but how he was able to create a team and create a culture of community sort of is why they succeeded. So, Hal, go ahead.
Your mic,
speaking, Hal.
You're on
You're
mute.
muted, Hal.
you're on mute, Hal.
Howie, you might want to take a run at that next year.
Yeah,
Football and
exactly.
hockey.
That's
So
good.
I was just gonna comment on your comment about, the games and being energized and being tired and, after games and sort of the whole thing. And so I'm probably pushing 6,000 games I've been behind the bench for. And as time goes by, I've learned to step back away just a little bit and watch more. The first 10 years I coached, I was also playing in practice along with the kids. And I learned very quickly if I was sweating during practice, I wasn't coaching. and, and that was not because I started when I quit playing at the university. I was still a sophomore. I started coaching away, sort of by accident. And now I always have thought, the practice is for the coach to really prepare the team for the game, and the game's for the players to play the game, and with guidance. And I make big decisions, but not little decisions along the way, and give them feedback through the game, especially the kids on the bench. What are they showing? What are they doing? And have a little different focus than I've been back in high school and youth hockey, where the coaches stand on the benches and scream at everybody for an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm just kind of standing there. I got conversation, but then we go back in the locker room and go, well, what do we see? What you guys learn today? That kind of stuff. So I think it sounds like that's what you're doing, but it's the longer you do this, the more you can kind of just step back a little bit and let the players own the games, and you're just kind of guiding them along the way. So anyways, I got to run, guys. It's been awesome. Marcos, nice to meet you. Mike, nice to meet you.